far too long, I was everything to everyone else, and I lost myself in everything. I now have a business. I am making a difference in people's lives, and in turn, they're making a difference in my life. They're showing me that what I went through, as devastating as it was, it moved me in a direction that I am so grateful for because I now control my destiny and I am not controlled by fear because fear is what hides behind all your excuses. And if you can conquer the fear, the sky's the limit. You can do anything. You really can.
Are you ready to quit your 9 to 5 job and start a business of your own? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Second Act Success podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell, and my mission is to help you produce your best life. This podcast will teach you how to get from where you are now to where you want to be, and how to build a business that fits your life and lights you up. Let's get started. Welcome to the Second Act Success podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. And today on the show, I'm chatting with my friend, Vanessa Cardenas. Vanessa is a C-suite executive in the healthcare field, and she is the founder of Understanding Ear, where she works as a betrayal recovery specialist. Vanessa has so much to offer for people who have gone through betrayal and are dealing with trauma. She is here to share her second act success story, along with speaking on stages, writing a book, and so much more. Let's dive in. Vanessa Cardenas, I'm so happy to have you here. I've been waiting to get you on the podcast. How are you?
I am fabulous. Oh, it has been such an amazing ride, and I'm so grateful to you. You and I attended an event that just wasn't quite what either one of us expected, but the highlight of it was the fact that we met and we had such an amazing conversation. That first conversation where it was like, this is the reason that I was
Yep.
meant to be here. And we just hit it off from that moment on. And we have been following each other on the socials and sending emails back and forth, trying to get our schedules to line up so that we could have this conversation for your audience because the energy that you and I both have and how passionate and how committed we are to what we do to help others through their challenges. Oh,
I
your
know.
audience is in for a ride.
They are. And you and I already talked for about an hour or so before this, so we can talk for a while. Let's get into all the good stuff because you have so much to share. But where did your career first begin?
My career first began in a family-owned company. Not my family, but a family-owned company, and that has a lot of different nuances to it. Then subsequently, 15 years later, because I'm a loyalist to a fault, I subsequently lost my job after 15 years. And granted, I was still young and I was in my 30s, but it still hit me like a tidal wave. I had to go out there. I had to have a resume and I had to network and show myself and everything else. And that was really challenging for me. But I landed a job in a healthcare company, again, another family owned company. And I progressed through the ranks. I became the only C suite executive that wasn't part of the family. And over 20 years later, I'm still here and I enjoy the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives, especially related to healthcare. But more importantly than that, I discovered something that I've always had as a child that I never really realized was my superpower. What I'm really good at was the art of listening, coaching, and of being a sounding board and an understanding ear to others. And it wasn't until I'm in the position that I'm in now that I actually realized, wow, like I make a difference in people's lives in a different capacity just by listening, by having that opportunity to do so. It's been an amazing ride. It absolutely has. And I like women in leadership roles. I'm going to say it. I absolutely am. I think
Yeah.
that there needs to be women in leadership roles. And that's one of the reasons why I'm sort of hanging on very tightly to my position because I have an inkling that if I leave, a gentleman would take my position. And I'm not quite comfortable with that because I clawed my way to the position that I have and I've held on to it rightfully so because I am good at my job. But if I retire, because I'm kind of getting close to that age, I do believe that a gentleman will take my position. So what I've been doing kind of on the side, but it's well known now, but there are 3 other women within my company that have those leadership qualities that I admire, and I see it. I see the passion that they have, and I want them, one of the 3 of them, and there's no competition between the 3 of them. They know that I'm going to recommend all 3 to the board, and the board can decide. But I want them to be ready. I want them to be ready to step into my shoes, into my heels, into my Doc Martens, and have that opportunity for them. I'm excited about those possibilities because I do think as women, we need to cultivate the younger generation, especially other women, and let them know, hey, it's possible. Anything's possible when you put your mind to it. And my mind's set on this.
And you're such a great example. I love that you're mentoring them and you're also holding on tight, like you said, because you did start another business and you wrote a book and you have this other thing going on. So you could easily leave, but you're not. You're staying put, you're enjoying the company that you're at, but you're able to grow this business on the side. And I think that's just another example of starting a business and being a second act woman doing that. And I want to dive into where the idea to create your business came from.
Mhm. There's a big story behind it. In my particular case, it was a devastating event.
Mhm.
My husband of over 2 decades, I had known him for 3 decades, sat me down on a park bench in Central Park and said 3 words to me that I never thought he would say. "I've met someone," and my whole world shattered. In an instant, I fell apart. The only place that I was, quote, "myself" was at my office. Otherwise, I was crying in my car, I was crying in the shower, I was crying in my bedroom. I was a mess. And not for nothing, I'm a smart woman. I have a psychology degree. I could fix him. I could fix me. I could fix our relationship. No problem. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. It like so doesn't work that way. And I, for too long, for far too long, I didn't get the help I desperately needed and we desperately needed. And I finally relented and I found an amazing support group, amazing mentor. We lost her during COVID,
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
she was amazing. And she pulled me aside one day and she said to me, "Vanessa, you're being selfish." And I took such offense to that. I was like, "What are you talking about? I have coffee with everybody else. I'm on speed dial for everyone else. I'm the unofficial ambassador for this program, for this group and whatnot. And you're calling me selfish." She says, "You're only helping 11 other people. You really need to get out there. You need to write a book." A book? I'm gonna share the fact that I was betrayed by my husband, my love, my beloved, who I loved more than anything else? Are you serious? It was her. It was her that encouraged me. She gave me that necessary shove I needed to get my story out. Well, prompted me to write my book. Well, you write a book and you start to get that feedback from people and people wanting to connect with you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be happy to meet with you. And before I knew it, I was involved. Again, this great mentor encouraged me to get further education and said, "Listen, I'm going to sponsor you. I'm going to recommend you for a certification related to betrayal." So I became a betrayal recovery specialist teaching under the guidance of several different mentors, which was great experience for me. Not only did it help me heal, but it helped me be able to communicate with others and let them know they're not alone. And that prompted me to start my business, which is Understanding Ear, based on a Stephen King quote from a wonderful book. Yep, Stephen King. He starts off Different Seasons, which is a short story book. And one of the short stories starts with a rather long quote. I've condensed it, but the hardest things to say are the most important things to say, not for the want of a teller, but for the want of an understanding ear. And I had carried that quote around with me for decades because I loved it. And when my business mentor said, listen, we need a URL for you, I was like, understanding ear. Like I immediately jumped all over it. That's what I want. I didn't realize, because you and I both know that when you start a business and you go down that route, you make a lot of mistakes. You do. You live and learn. You have to. You have to scrape your knees and get up and keep going. Well, I scraped my knees by having an understanding ear, which I held so dear to my heart. I didn't realize that I would be confused with an audiologist.
Yes. Oh, I didn't think about that either.
Yes. So yeah, I needed to associate my name with it. And again, I was a little cautious about throwing my name out there, because I still had children, younger children and, colleagues. Nobody at my office, nobody at my company knew about the betrayal. I mean, I kept that very close to the chest. I didn't want to share that. A little hard to do so when you've written a book.
Very, very true.
Exactly. So here I am. I'm out there on all the socials and YouTube and everything else. And so much so that in April, I spoke at Oxford University and I shared my story. And my story goes back to childhood. It does, because I had micro betrayals throughout my whole life that stacked. And then, of course, this big catastrophic betrayal from my husband opened Pandora's box. And I can say now, in hindsight, I'm grateful. I'm actually grateful, because it was the necessary shove that I needed to move in a different direction, because for far too long, I was everything to everyone else. And I lost myself in everything. And I now have a business. And I don't even call it a side hustle. I don't view it that way. It is a business. I am making a difference in people's lives. And in turn, they're making a difference in my life. They're showing me that what I went through, as devastating as it was, it moved me in a direction that I am so grateful for, because I now control my destiny. And I am not controlled by fear, because fear is what hides behind all your excuses.
Oh, yes.
hmm And if you can conquer the fear, the sky's the limit. You can do anything. You really can. And one of the things I talked about on that Oxford stage and the Oxford podcast, subsequent podcast, was how we have so much doubt. And doubt is actually our inner critic that just speaks to us so horrifically and beats us down.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is cloaked in fear. And if we can move beyond the fear, if we can label it, we can actually put a label on it, name the fear of exactly what it is, we can deal with it. When it's in the shadows and very loud, I think of it like a gremlin holding a flashlight. The gremlin itself is really small, but in that corner, when it holds the flashlight just a certain way and casts that shadow on the wall, it's menacing. It's so big, you don't feel like you can handle it. But if you look at it closely, it's this small. It's really this small. And you're allowing fear to control you. So move past the fear. Well, how do you move past fear? That's always the question. And again, you can get all the wisdom and knowledge from everywhere. You can read every single book. You can search the internet, Google, AI, everything else, and it can tell you what to do. But unless you implement it, and unless you have an accountability buddy encouraging you, moving you forward and saying, hey, what'd you do? What have you done this week? And making you accountable to yourself, It's not gonna happen. It's just not. And that's why it does take a village. It does take an extra person to believe in you. And that's what I had. I had this, as I said, this amazing mentor. And 5 years, 5 years she's been gone physically, but she's always with me. She's always with me. Every time I get a review, I thank her because
Yeah.
she was the one that said, "You have to be out there." Every time I get booked on a podcast, I thank her for that
Mm.
because without her, I would not be here. And without the betrayal, I wouldn't be here. And right here, right now is so amazing. It's so glorious. I love who I am. And my 30s were rough. I don't know about yours, but my 30s were rough. My 40s
Yeah.
were rough. My 50s, glorious. You're
That's
absolutely right. It's my second act and I love it. And I want to share it with everyone. I want everybody to know, turn that page, turn that next page. The next page is blank. You get to write it. And don't let fear write it for you. No, you write it. You write what you want to do and you get to experience that and stay in that joy. And in my particular case, I have, I'll call it the luxury of I'm still working. I didn't lose my job because a lot of times your second act comes from a loss. In my particular case, it was loss of my marriage. Though I am still married, it's that first section of my marriage. Because even though I've been married 34 years, there's a little asterisk there.
Yeah.
It means, hold on, there's more to the story.
Yeah.
There was a section of time that was really rocky and very challenging, but we made it through.
You can talk to with your clients, with people who need to feel healed like you were. You can talk about what you went through. So when you talk about an accountability buddy, it really is having that coach, that person who has walked the walk and been there. And you can talk about what happened to you if you choose to with your clients, and we chose to make it through to the other end and still be together. Or you can talk to them about the other options that maybe you weighed. Having you as someone who has been there and come out the other side, the happiest she's been in a really long time is the accountability partner that you need when you are going through a similar situation and you're feeling like all hope is lost and you're feeling that fear that you mentioned. You can either choose to stay stuck in it or find someone to help you get to the other side by holding your hand.
That's exactly it. It's so true. And you do the same. You do exactly the same because when we go through events and we have the opportunity to have the second act, oh, it can be so successful. And you can look back on the first act and go, "Yeah, that served its purpose. It did." But
Exactly.
now I'm involved in the second act. I don't need to keep looking back at the past. I can
No.
stay present right here, right now, and I can look forward and have things to look forward to. And you control that. You absolutely do.
You're right. And we all have a second act opportunity. It's just a matter if we're going to see it through or if we're going to just stay stuck where we are. And I think that we can talk about that with betrayal. We can talk about it with losing a job or starting a business. You come to that fork in the road and you decide, do I want to continue down the same path that I'm on that doesn't feel aligned with who I am? Or do I want to step into that second act and create something new that brings me into my full purpose and feeling fulfilled? And that is a choice that we all have no matter what.
And that's the beauty of it is
Yeah.
choice, is having choice and allowing yourself to recognize that you have choice. I hear all too often this certain language that is used always, always, or never, or I have no choice.
Mm.
When you say those three often, you really start to believe it. And I'm here to tell you it's not true. It really isn't. You have control. And if you can move past the fear, because the fear is hiding behind what you're expressing.
Yeah.
That you can label it, as I said, if you can label that fear, you can conquer that fear. And what it takes. is not only your own resilience and standing on your own feet, but it is an army of support. And it might not be who you expect to be that army. You might expect friends and family to stand around you and support you. And sometimes they don't do what we want them to do. Oftentimes they don't do what we want them to do. Sometimes they ghost us, not intentionally, but they ghost us because they don't want to infringe, or they don't want whatever you have to get on them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or they smother you. And, the smothering can be, like a straitjacket. And it's like, okay, you got to give me time to breathe, back off a little bit and whatnot. And then, of course, they say all the wrong kind of things all the time. And I almost want a cheat sheet that when we go through a catastrophic event, we hand them, this is how you help me. And,
Mhm.
and list all the things that you need.
Yes.
And that's why communication is so important, to be able to speak and say what you need and how you need and what you're going through and how you're feeling to those that can support you. Sometimes that support needs to be professional. As I said, I waited way too long, way too long. I thought I was much smarter and everything, and I could just handle it and it would be fine and everything else. No, no. I needed professional help. I needed to hear it from someone else that I wasn't alone, that my feelings were valid, and I just needed to be able to step in front of my fear, because that's what it
Mm.
was. And I resisted. Oh, I'm not afraid. I'm strong enough. But no, I was so fearful. I didn't even recognize it until someone pointed it out. And that's what we need. We need that other person, that other sounding board to let us know we're going to be okay.
Fear is paralyzing because it does. It paralyzes you, and you can stay in that spot for a really long time. And I wonder where you would be. And I don't want to think about it too much, but where you would be if you didn't get that help and you didn't have that group of support. Who knows? I mean, you definitely wouldn't have a business. You wouldn't have a clients that you can help. You wouldn't be writing books and speaking on stages to help other people heal. But you would probably be in a very dark place years later.
Without a doubt. And I wouldn't be married.
Right.
I know that. I wouldn't be married. It would have been destructive to my family for generations. Generations. It affects generations. I mean, look at ourselves. I mean, myself. I was born to terrified teenage parents. They were not equipped to have a child. Not at all. Am I grateful I'm here? Of course. But, throughout my childhood, I had a very different experience than I do now. But I know that generational ripple effect that happens. And for me, I couldn't even fathom doing that to my children and having that ripple continue. It needed to stop with me. And it was another reason. It was another reason for rebuilding my relationship. Again, in my particular case, and again, every relationship is unique and different, but in my particular case, I knew that I would have a new relationship. I would, whether I stayed married or had a new relationship, I would have a new relationship. So if I was going to have a new relationship, I kind of wanted to have a new relationship with my husband.
Yes, that's a great way to think of it.
Absolutely. I knew I would have to still do the same work, because you have the same work when you're rebuilding as well. You go through those wonderful stages, even the first stage, which I refer to as the zero date. Someone brilliant on YouTube with a TED Talk many years ago did, and she's from New York, so she's got that grit that you and I
Yeah.
have as well. But she
Mhm.
did the zero date and how you do the zero date. And it's lost now because we have social media and we have the swiping. But the zero date is just making eye contact with somebody, in a coffee shop, seeing them at a party, seeing them at a gathering, wherever it is. And you make that eye contact. And in that instant, hey, that's somebody I need to talk to.
Yeah.
And what happens? They come over and hey, that's the initial conversation, and you have these little itty tidbits, And then you exchange phone numbers and, if you do the customary 3 days, wait 3 days kind of thing, or a call right away and whatnot, and you have that first date.
Mhm.
Problem now is we don't have that 0 date.
You're
We
right.
jump right into the first date, and that's why the first date is so awkward because we don't have that 0 date to start with, so
Well, I think it's great that you were able to heal, save your marriage, and then go on to write your book and start your business and still have your corporate job. You're really doing all of the things that encourage my listeners or my clients to, if you have that paycheck, keep working and start your business on the side. And I think it's wonderful that you have this business, not on the side necessarily, like we said earlier, but it's a business that's running simultaneously with your corporate C-suite level job. And that's incredible. You're wearing a lot of hats. You're going out there speaking on stages, trying to help others. And I want to ask you, because I was lucky enough to watch your Oxford talk and see you speak in person at an event in Washington, D.C., where we met. But I have to ask you about the nasty chick. Because you talk about this inner critic that we have, and I think a lot of listeners will be able to resonate with her.
Yes, nasty chick. I've had her for as long as I can remember, and she appeared for me in kindergarten, and she just took off from there, and she beat me down. And, as a child, I thought she was there to protect me. I really did. I saw her as a companion. Anytime I was alone or lonely, there she was to remind me, "Oh, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't do that. No, don't do that." And she kept me small. She really did. But at the same time, it really advanced my career because I learned to listen because
Mhm.
she was always telling me to stay quiet. Don't speak up. Don't say anything. Just nobody cares what you have to say. That's the worst one. Absolutely is the worst one. So I perfected the art of listening. And just like Dale Carnegie in the Seven Habits, where he talks about the fact that he was at this cocktail party and everybody thought he was such a great conversationalist. Meanwhile, he said nothing. He let them talk about themselves, because that's what most people like to do. They like to talk about themselves. And I took on that philosophy just more so not because of his book, but because my inner critic was telling me, shut up. Don't say anything. Don't give anything away. Don't they're gonna swipe your idea. They're gonna, all of it. All of it, just the constant beating down. It was great for my career. Absolutely great for my career, especially as a woman in a family-owned business as well as more of a male-dominated business. You
Right.
know, and yeah, so she was harsh. And she would hibernate every once in a while. She would. She would settle down and I'd go about my business and whatnot. But that day in Central Park when my husband said those 3 words to me, oh, she came out guns blazing. I was blamed for it all. No matter what my husband said, it has nothing to do. It's not you, it's me, blah, blah, blah. She was screaming in my ear, "It's all your fault. You did this. You weren't good enough. You didn't do this. You did too much of that." Everything. I mean, just on a relentless loop.
Mm.
So much so that I really needed to tap that down. And every once in a while, she'll rear her ugly head. She will, and it's interesting because, as I mentioned, she hibernates, and I had to learn techniques to tap her down, and I did. And standing on my own 2 feet and being resilient and telling her, "Enough. I
Right.
don't need you right now. I
Mm-mm.
don't need that." And it allowed my intuition and my gut that were destroyed to come forward and be like, "Hey," because we do have all 3. But
Yeah.
sometimes our nasty chick, our inner critic, will bully the other 2 into submission, and we don't hear them anymore. So suddenly, I get to, have a reunion with my gut and my
Yeah.
wonderful intuition, which I absolutely love. And as I said, every once in a while, she'll rear her ugly head, and she did for Oxford talks, which was
Yeah.
very surprising to me because I had my speech all set, and if you've ever done a TED Talk or something along those lines, you do need to practice. You need to
Mhm.
choose your words carefully because you have a set time frame to be able to work in, and you wanna make sure that every single word lands the way it should.
Mhm.
So, I am all good now with asking for help.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got a little bit of professional help, just somebody who could guide me through, make sure that my words hit where they were supposed to. So, I got a speech coach. Great, wonderful, and whatnot. And I had all the papers in front of me, and I was all set and, starting to memorize it and whatnot. And she said to me, "I want you to turn the pages over. I don't want you to look at it. Go, tell me your speech." She goes, "Don't worry about the words, just speak.
Yeah.
Let it rip." And I stood there. I didn't even know the first word. And
There she
like
came.
a thunderbolt, she
Mhm.
came out.
Yeah.
"You can't do this. You're not supposed to share your story. You're not good enough. Don't even think about being on that stage." And I was so overwhelmed with emotion. She had been quiet for years. And
Yeah.
suddenly she was right there. And I was like, "Oh, no, 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 no. Hold on." And I had to pause. I had to take that moment and that break and to feel it because what it was fear. I
Yeah.
was afraid.
You were
And that
vulnerable at that time.
exactly. Exactly. And I didn't recognize it beforehand. But
Yeah.
going through it, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that was an amazing experience. So when I stood on that stage at Oxford University and said those first 3 words, it was so liberating for me and such an amazing experience, that stage, and that was in April, and my every single cell in my body is still dancing, and
Wow.
I am so ridiculously proud and grateful that my words, my experience, what I went through, all those micro betrayals, that devastating betrayal can make a difference in somebody else's life.
Mm.
That uh, eh, my being tested became my testimonial. That my mess in my message and the messy middle and everything else, I get to make a difference in somebody else's life like my mentor made a difference in my life. And for that, I'm ridiculously grateful.
Congratulations on all of the views and the success of that talk. It's incredible. I'm so proud of you. And it just goes to show that the nasty chick that we all have inside of our heads can be tamed or tapped down, like you said. And it's just the fact that she comes out at those vulnerable moments, those moments where we are second guessing ourselves. And so, for listeners who are thinking about starting a second act, whatever it is, in their relationships, in their business, in their work, in their lives, and they have a nasty chick inside of their heads, what advice would you give to them on how they can tap her down and move forward to really step into who they should be?
Recognize her for who she is.
Mm.
That's the first thing. Recognize her for who she is. I know that you're trying to protect me, but I don't need you right now.
Yeah.
I said that mantra over and over and over and over and over again to the point where she started to get quiet. The other technique that I used was to recognize myself, to see myself exactly as who I am. And for me, it was, I'm very much pen to paper, very much pen to paper. So I had a win journal. I still have one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
It's probably my eighth journal now, but I write down every single win. Every single win I have, I write it down. And anytime I have that little bit of hesitation, that little bit of maybe, I read my win journal. I open it up on any page and I read about the wins, wins that I forgot about because we do forget about these things. And it could be a little win, or it could be a big win, whatever it is, but wins so that you remind yourself of who you are
Mhm.
so that you can tap down that inner critic. And when she starts, "Oh, you're not good enough." Really? Here's my book. Here it is. I did this on this date and I did that on that date and all these things. And the wins are your wins. Whatever gives you a sense of pride, whatever warms your heart and fills you with joy. It could be somebody else's win that you got to experience. Oh, I was there when they won the championship. Oh my God, you were there? You were actually there? That's a win. Because there are so many other people that only got to see it on TV. You got to feel that energy. That's a win. Whatever those wins are, that very first client that you have, that very first payment that you have, that very first invoice that you have, the very first book review you have, the very first time you open the box of books and you see your name written by,
Yeah.
that's a win. And take those wins and enjoy those wins, savor those wins, marinate in those wins. So that when that inner critic, because she will come up, she can be loud, she can be, very mute, or she can be very loud. But when
Mhm.
she appears, you know it. You
Yeah.
absolutely know it because you hear the voice in your head. Not your own. It's totally not your own. You can crack open that book and read through it and get that sense of pride, get that sense of who you are, and that'll instantly tap her down because she can't
Mhm.
dispute that. Those are your wins. They're in black and white. You have written them down. Pen to paper, you've written them down. They're your handwriting. You see it. It's yours. You own it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Amazing, beautifully said. And it's true. I think when you look at those wins, and you can do the same as looking back at your first act and everything you've accomplished before you're going to make this new transition and say, wow, I've done a lot. I've won a lot. And I can use that as the inspiration and the confidence to leap into that second act because you can do it. You have done things in the past that have been successful, and now you're just trying something new and taking all of that energy with you. So, wow, what fantastic advice, Vanessa. That is amazing. And, like, again, can be applied to any second act, any transition. You are just in such a wonderful place. I can see you glowing through the screen here. And wow, thank you so much because this is a very vulnerable story for you to share with us. And to see you on the other side of it is really empowering.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I could be so bold, you've gotta share a little bit of your story. I love your story. Your story had such an impact on me. You spoke on that Washington, D.C. stage for what, 12 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and it was so memorable, your
Yeah.
story, and I'm sure that you've shared it on your podcast before, but I would be incredibly honored if you would share it again because in my mind, I hear it a certain way, and it warms my heart, and
Yeah.
I would love for you to say it again. Would you mind?
Yeah, no, of course. And you know what? Because our situations are different yet similar, right? There, it's that moment where you say, okay, everything from the past has changed, and this is my new normal. And what am I going to do with it? And that was that moment I shared during that talk was being 8 months pregnant in New York City, about to interview Taylor Swift, and finally realizing, you know what, I'm gonna miss dinner and bath time with my 3-year-old. So I made a game time decision to leave her, not go see Taylor and interview her for my show, and run through the Times Square subway station in my heels with my big belly to get on that bus and go back to the suburbs to be with my son. And in that moment was when I realized I don't need to see these celebrities. I don't need to continue this work and miss these moments with my kids. So that was my moment that said, let me produce my own life. Let me try to see how I can use my skills in a different way. That led me to my book and my businesses and speaking and all of this wonderful stuff. I feel like I'm just as happy on this side as you are, and you the same. It's like you had this moment where it could have made you or broke you, or you could have ignored it and just kept going. But you said, no, I'm going to lean into this. And not only am I going to lean into this betrayal, but I'm going to get through it, save my marriage, write a book to help other people, start a business to help other people. Like you went so many levels beyond, Vanessa. And so yeah, so thank you for getting something out of my story, but absolutely I had the same feeling with yours, and then getting to hear your story in full with your Oxford talk, which I will link to in the show notes as well for people to watch. And then just to have you, really dive into your whole past here has been so wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to do so. I know that this isn't going to be our only conversation.
No, absolutely no. Not at all.
And that's the beauty of when you are on the other side and you enjoy what you do, because it allows you the opportunity to meet the most amazing people that you wouldn't have met otherwise,
Yeah.
because like attracts like. It
Yeah.
just does.
And you're open, right? We're both open to new opportunities because it's nice on this side. It's nice to be in charge and enjoy the life that you're living. And I know you both of us want that for everyone listening and sharing in this time with us today. And I want to make sure before we say our goodbyes, where can everyone connect with you?
It's definitely my URL, which is understandingear.com. And you can find me on all the socials under Vanessa Cardenas. You'll find me. If you add relationship reset expert to your search, you'll definitely get me and only
Okay.
me. If you put the word relationship after my name, Vanessa Cardenas relationship in Google search, you can absolutely find me. And I look forward to connecting.
Thank you so much. I'm going to link to everything in the show notes, and I'm sure we'll have many more conversations here on the podcast and, of course, in real life. But thank you again, Vanessa, so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.